Following the methodology from our best-selling book, The Resilience Shield, we are delighted to announce the inaugural Resilience Retreat, which will occur in far north Queensland between Thursday the 27th of October and Sunday the 30th of October.
The whole point of the retreat is to give you the ability to build your shield, to develop your knowledge and understanding of the key principles related to resilience, to enhance your toolkit and to optimise your performance.
Come and be part of an incredible group of humans that are like-minded, meet our facilitators and motivational speakers. To find out more, email us at retreat@resilienceShield.com. Hope to see you there.
Welcome to the Unforgiving 60 with your hosts, Ben Pronk and Tim Curtis. As two ex-SAS guys armed with MBAs, Ben and Tim seek out people leading lives less ordinary and talk with them about how they fill their unforgiving minutes and what helps them go, always, a little further. Like intellectual bowerbirds, we aim to collect shiny little objects of knowledge that we think can help build better humans.
G'day everyone and welcome to the Unforgiving 60 podcast. I'm Ben Pronk.
And I'm Tim Curtis.
You are. Tim, I was given the book, Penguin Bloom, I've got to say about 5 years ago, and my whole family loved it. Just sort of fell in love with the idea, just such a beautiful story and beautiful pictures, an incredible tale of a family nursing a baby magpie named Penguin, that had fallen from its nest back to life, but set against the backdrop of the tragedy that the family had just encountered, and that was the mother Sam having fallen from a balcony while on holiday and broken her back, and just such a wonderful story. And, you know, as I said, resonated really well with our family. And then a few weeks back, I found myself on the same stage as Sam, and I was a little starstruck and got talking with her and Cam and just recognised how genuine and beautiful they are as humans, and that sort of led us to where we are today with having both Cam and Sam as guests on the podcast.
Yeah, pretty normal family, mum, dad, 3 kids growing up on the northern beaches of New South Wales, holidaying in Thailand in 2013 when Sam had her fell through a rotten balcony railing. Sam talks about hitting the ground, not remembering too much, and Cam says she was struggling to breathe. No surprises, both of her lungs were ruptured, her skull was fractured, and a spinal cord was shattered. She spent some time in Thailand before being medically evacuated back to Australia and spent a phenomenal amount of time in Royal North Shore Hospital. One of the interesting parts, though, is you think she'd be pretty buoyant about getting out of hospital and going home.
Yeah, but as we're going to discover when we talk with Sam and Cam, almost that anticlimax and the sort of reality setting in was some of their darkest moments, and enter stage left a fluffy little magpie chick, and you know, not to underplay the amazing resilience and spirit demonstrated by both Sam and Cam, and indeed their boys in the whole journey, and we're going to talk to them about that, about the process, about the ups and downs, and then even some random stuff like what's it like having a Hollywood movie filmed in your house?
Yes, and not to mention her re-entry into the water in parasurfing and, of course, her being a world champion.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about resilience. We are about to talk with the poster children of resilience, I think, Cam and Sam Bloom, and along the way we'll discover who Tim thinks should play him in a Hollywood remake of his life.
Bollywood blockbuster.
Bollywood blockbuster. My money's on Danny DeVito for that one. And we'll also discover a strange 2 degrees of unforgiving 60 separation in terms of Sam and another previous guest on this podcast.
Let's get on with the show.
I know you're waiting for me. I know I'm being a coward. Why don't you follow your dreams? Why do you
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unforgiving 60 podcast. I'm Ben Pronk, and I am... No, I introduce you. I'm joined by Tim Curtis.
G'day, Ben.
Yeah,
Nice to see you.
Now you can speak. And once we get our act together, are absolutely delighted this week to be joined by two pretty amazing folk, Cam and Sam Bloom. How are you?
We're good.
Hi, Ben. Hi, Tim.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, no, thank you very much for your time. Now, clearly we're going to talk a bunch of different aspects and sort of touch on some ideas of resilience, but in case there's anyone on the planet, or certainly in this country, who doesn't really know of you, clearly the sort of best-selling books are putting you in the household name sort of category. But Sam, would you mind by sort of talking us a bit through your background, sort of where you grew up and sort of maybe up to the sort of point of the accident?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've grown up on the northern beaches in Sydney, so I had a pretty awesome childhood. I lived just a few minutes walk from the beach. So, I've spent my whole childhood essentially surfing, just hanging out at the beach. When I was younger, my mum and dad used to take us camping a lot. Actually, I remember when I was in first grade, and we went for 3 months up the east coast of Australia and then up to Arnhem Land and Darwin and down through the middle. So we've always kind of had this element of traveling and exploring and, being a little bit adventurous. So that's where I got my love of travel from. And so, once I finished school, I did nursing at university, which I always wanted to do. Again, it came when I was in first grade. I always wanted to be a nurse, and I always wanted to work in Africa. Not sure where that came from, but I stuck to it.
Seems like everything came to you in first grade.
It did. It must have been a really pivotal year.
That's about where I peaked.
Then, I probably did peak then. It was all downhill. And when I was 19, I met Cam, who was a pretty cool surfer guy, and he also loved traveling and loved meeting people, and we had a lot of common interests. And
before we leave the northern beaches of Sydney, am I right in saying, so a former guest on the show, we've had the Externals, the original SAS rock band, and Weimer, the very charismatic bass player for the Externals, is also a northern beaches boy. And my understanding is that his dad, so this is Matt, his dad was the baker and your dad was a butcher, or is it the other way around?
Matt's dad was a butcher.
Opposite, yeah.
Other way around.
Paul was the butcher and my dad was the baker.
That's pretty cool. And you guys knew each other growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've kind of hung out since we were kids. I remember windsurfing with them. Paul had a boat and we had a boat, and so we'd all, go around Pittwater on the boats, go windsurfing. Yeah, it was fun.
That's super cool.
Really fun.
And so, Cam, you've come on the scene at age 19. What's your sort of background up till there? Were you Northern Sydney, Northern Beaches as well?
Well, I was most Christmas time. I remember seeing Sam when she was a little tacker in her parents' cake shop, and only seeing her every Christmas. And it wasn't until I was older and then saw her at the pub that night that we sort of first got together, that I realised how old she was. I always thought she was like 3 years under me because she was so small. and that's kind of, well, my childhood was on the North Shore of Sydney, and we spent as much time as possible on the northern beaches, and we didn't move here until I was 16.
And clearly, I'm really keen to talk about your photography, and we'll link to some of your amazing work. Was that an interest that started as a child? Did you get into photography sort of prior to that stage, or was that something that developed a bit later in your life?
My dad had always taken photographs, and I didn't really get the spark from him per se, but I think it was my a cousin of mine who was a surf photographer, and that really was the time that I guess had that inkling that maybe I could take surf photographs, and that could be a path forward. And then Dad bought me a Nikon camera, and we went to Bali, and I remember that very first moment of looking down the lens and focusing on this Balinese woman and the eye contact that she gave me. And it was really intense. And I was only probably 15 or something at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, wow, this is it. And I basically began a career in the early days. I was a surf photographer and then became a portrait photographer. And I shot a lot of weddings and a lot of editorial work for magazines, and eventually settled on sort of corporate work. And that's still what I do today.
You've got some wonderful pieces of art in the background. Is art also a part of your life? Are you strictly photography?
Yeah, I think it comes from our travels, really. We traveled extensively through the Middle East and Sam through Africa a lot, and we've just always loved tribal art and the motifs and pottery and all sorts of art. When you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing. We love modern art, and we love. I think the different cultures is what really has inspired us.
Yeah.
Any favourite destinations?
Jeez, there's so many.
I think we've settled on here.
Ethiopia. I loved Mali in West Africa. I loved Ghana because I love the people.
You're going to show off now.
No, I'm not. No, I'm just. No, it's just the places that really meant something, and I love Bhutan because I love the people there too. There's so many. There are so many trips.
I was going to ask.
For us, it's never been.
You go.
For us, it's never been about necessarily the landscape or the animals. It's always been the people, and our most cherished memories have always been with people that have been incredibly generous or just opened up their lives to us, whether it be in a little shack in Kenya or drinking coffee in Ethiopia. Those experiences is what I think any traveler really remembers. Maybe being stampeded by elephants perhaps, but we didn't experience that. So.
Sidestep them.
Isn't it funny how you can form these opinions of other groups of people and they can be really entrenched, and then when you meet them and you actually engage, the commonality far outweighs, any of the differences. And even we're seeing it, and I think, social media is driving this a lot, that we're getting polarised and, Democrats or Republicans or, Russians are bad guys and all this sort of stuff. And it's just not that simple or black and white, is it? There's so much goodness out there, and I'm with you that by and large the travel, I think, really opens your eyes to the fact that we are so similar and that generally people are good.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree.
Speaking about coffee in Ethiopia, I had the fortune a few years ago to go and do some work in the Oromia region. And if there is any doubt in anyone's mind that where the best coffee is, it is there. Unbelievable, the coffee in Oromia, Ethiopia.
Is that northern Ethiopia?
Is that?
It's actually western Ethiopia. Yeah, it's probably 3 hours drive from Addis. It's been a contested area now for some time, the local people seeking some element of independence. So there's been some conflict there through the recent years. But good coffee, bringing them together.
So are they near Sudan?
Not that far, no.
Right.
Yeah.
So clearly, once your sort of eyes met and you recognised the little girl from the bakery, a lot of your time together, there has been travel as a constant theme through that?
Every year.
Yeah. I mean, our biggest trip was when I finished uni, and that's when, we did what everybody else does after uni, go to Europe. And that's right. We didn't really go. We had that travel. Remember the Euro? No, the Euro.
Oh, yeah. Euros, not the Eurostar.
Euro.
Europe.
Yeah. The travel pass. Yeah.
We're showing our age. There's probably no such thing now.
We were actually going to travel around Europe, because we flew into Italy and then we sort of went to Greece and then Turkey. And then from there, we actually just headed down through the Middle East because we just absolutely loved it. So we sort of bypassed Europe.
We hitched our way all the way along the Black Sea coast of Turkey, all the way up towards Georgia, and just had an incredible experience in Turkey. We spent about six weeks, and then eventually came through the middle of Turkey and then down into Syria, into Aleppo and through to Palmyra and briefly to Damascus, and then across to
Jordan.
Down to Jordan. Yeah. We slept, went to Petra, and we just had such a wild time. And I can't believe we did it all with our backpacks and yet still managed to collect and bring various things home with us.
Well, and some of those experiences...
Cam is a little bit of a hoarder.
I wouldn't say that.
I was going to say some of those experiences, you probably can't have again. Now, I remember talking with Tim, who spent a bit of time in Damascus, and him, reflecting on what a beautiful city it was, and that ain't necessarily the case anymore. Which is a real shame. And so it was on one of your travels in Thailand that, of course, things changed pretty markedly.
Yes. So we have 3 boys, and we wanted to obviously show them the world as well. It's really frustrating because our initial plan was actually to take them to Ethiopia. So we were going to fly to Egypt, obviously show them the pyramids, and then fly down to Addis. And just at the time, it was too dangerous to go to Cairo because I think there was a lot of unrest. So that's why we chose Thailand. Because we thought, it's safe to Phuket. And we started heading north. So we found this really nice hotel, sort of in the middle of, it was halfway between Phuket and Bangkok. And it was quite remote. And we were there for 2 days. And that's when one of the kids spotted like an observation deck. So we all climbed up the stairs, and I leant on the railing, and I didn't realize that it had dry rot. So I fell backwards and fell 6 meters and broke my back and, sustained numerous injuries. So it wasn't my best holiday.
Nor mine.
No, nor yours. No, nor the kids.
No, it was pretty horrific because the boys, or some of the boys, saw Sam fall. And, there was... at the time, I just heard this incredible sound of like clanging, and it was the railing that had hit the concrete tiles below. And I just raced to the edge and over, and Sam was sort of lying there on her back. And it wasn't until I raced down the stairs, and then I noticed, this pool of blood just sort of growing from her head. And I thought that Sam, must have been for sure like brain dead. That was my sort of fear. And Sam could hardly breathe, and she was like gasping for breath and making terrible sounds. And it was, I sort of rolled her over, and I just saw this huge lump in her back, and then realized that she must have, I don't even know actually if I'd realized that you'd broken your back then, but I just knew that was not a good shape. And an ambulance came not too much later. It was probably 10 to 15 minutes before an ambulance came, and we just went to a very small local hospital, and they x-rayed Sam, and we saw the x-ray. They didn't speak any English, and they said that we really need to get Sam into a bigger hospital. And that's when we spent another sort of 4 hours traveling with the boys in this ambulance to a private hospital. And they operated on Sam. 2 days later, she was still unstable and couldn't be operated on until then. They flew a surgeon down from Bangkok and ended up putting screws and rods in her back, and then Sam sort of woke up a day or so later.
What's your recollection of the incident, Sam?
I have none. It's so bizarre. I actually don't even remember walking up the stairs. I remember that morning because we all went swimming and we're all having a really great time. And I remember we ordered a juice, and that's it. That's the last I remember. And
didn't you remember them putting the mask over you?
That was when I was in hospital camp.
Mm.
Yeah, so my first actual memory I'm assuming it was maybe 2 days after I'd fallen, and my mum and my sister had flown over, and I think I still had my cozy on and my t-shirt, and I remember saying to them, "What are you guys doing here?" And then I remember saying to Mum, I must have been strapped to the spinal board, and I remember saying to Mum, "I want to get up. I want to get up. This is really hurting." I'm like squashing my chest. And then my second memory, which is pretty vivid, is I was in theatre. Sorry, excuse me. I was in theatre, and I actually didn't know I was in theatre. And I remember them putting, I'm assuming it's central under my neck because that really hurt. And then I saw my t-shirt being pulled up, and they cut that off, and then you just see that mask come down over your face. So they are my only memories. And I had no idea what was happening or what injuries I'd sustained.
And the doctors kept telling me that Sam had a lot of inflammation around her spine, and that the feeling may come back. So none of us really knew, and I think they were kind of protecting us.
I think they were just being nice.
Yeah.
I think they were saying that spinal shock.
Yeah.
So I actually had no idea I was paralysed.
Is there such a thing, Ben and Tim?
I have never. I've heard of Spinal Tap, the band.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe it's a Thai term.
Yeah.
So I didn't realise I was paralysed, which is kind of strange. But I think at that time, because I'd hit my head and I'd had subdural and epidural hematomas, that was my main focus. I just had the most insane headaches. And I think the Thai nurses, they just come in and just inject, I don't know what, some sort of painkiller. So I was pretty out of it. I remember, I think I was I don't ever remember eating. I don't really remember seeing the boys. I remember my friend, she also flew over. And when she walked into the room, I burst into tears. I remember that. But yeah, it's just so bizarre. I think I did say in the ambulance to Cam, I can't move my legs. But I don't remember saying that. Do you not remember that? You told me that.
It's hard. Memory is such a strange thing. You think that, you're remembering it, but did I say that? And am I remembering just saying that, or is it the actual memory? Memory is so subjective.
Yep.
I remember when we were writing the book and Bradley was interviewing me and then separately interviewing Sam, and we both had such different experiences of certain times. One of us would remember one thing that was completely different to the other person, and it's it's really interesting how your perception of a moment perhaps changes,
particularly under stress. I think we've spoken about this before, but a couple of incidents from combat, we had one that sticks in my mind, particularly a guy on the patrol vividly remembers seeing a bad guy in a position and described him perfectly and all that sort of stuff. But when we did the after-action review, he'd been on the other side of a feature and the other side of a building. He physically was never in a position where he could have seen this person, but he developed a memory from talking with other people, under that stress. It was real to him, but it never, he never saw it. And it's to your point, Cam, that memories are so, I guess, malleable and subjective. They can change and can be created.
I've been sitting, watching you grow as I just stay the same. I'm starting to think that I'm going nowhere fast. I feel the pressure building, falling upon me. I'm buried, how? This isn't a game that I'm playing. Oh, it's time to end this now. Can I move forward when I'm still holding on to this? Oh, it's time for me to say this, If you won't leave me broken, I can start feeling like I didn't know what to do anymore. And I can stop hoping that you'd come walking right back through that door. But I'm gonna work hard, not gonna give up on this dream, Cause far from the start, you are the one that needed me. You won't leave me broken.
did you realise the severity of the incident?
Oh, I didn't realise until I was flown back to Australia. So it was about 3 weeks after the accident. And then I was flown back, and I ended up in Royal North Shore Hospital. And it was my second day there, and they took me down for an MRI. And that's when the doctor came up. And he was so blunt. Like, you know, he was only young, like, nice-looking guy. And I asked him, like, I said, will I walk again? He just went, no. Like, you know, you're not going to walk again, kind of thing. And I just remember my mum was with me at the time. And, because Cam was still in Thailand trying to organise, I don't know, police reports or whatever you were doing. Mm. And I just pulled this sheet over my head and I just burst into tears. So that's how I found out. I just wish he'd given me, like, just a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
Mm. You know, obviously he has to be honest. And, yes, my injuries were pretty bad. But if he'd just said, you never know, like, you know, things might change.
Keep working on your rehab.
Just try and stay fit. Yeah.
And Cam, I mean, clearly this is an incredibly impactful time. How did you cope? I mean, there must have been so many different things coming at you, massively, you know, obviously concerned about Sam's welfare, but you've got 3 boys there. Even just the admin of a holiday, I assume there's suitcases and stuff in a hotel somewhere and you're in a hospital, and then you've got the police report and all that sort of stuff. Were you just on 100% adrenaline, or were you able to sort of...
I think so.
Yeah.
There was initially, I think we had really good support in Thailand. My brother came, Sam's sister came, my sister came, Sam's mum came, Bronwyn, Sam's friend, came. So we had the boys kind of looked after to that extent, and they actually came home early with my sister. So I was dealing with some of the police and legal avenues. We looked at if there was any opportunity of getting some money from the hotel, which really didn't happen at all, because it was a tiny little family-run hotel. So essentially it was just bad luck, and you know, my focus was not going down that path, but really to come back to Australia and be with Sam. So that's pretty well when it felt like, I don't know, like a meteor shower. It was just stuff coming at you like constantly, and it required enormous focus, and I hated distraction. I really needed, like, time spent in the car was really valuable, because I would just drive up to see Sam in hospital, which was maybe 40 minutes away. And I would just go through all these things in my head, and then you'd be thinking, you know, Ollie's got to get to football on Saturday, and then, you know, Noah's got music class, or whatever it was. You know, there was all these things, and then you're thinking, oh my God, we've got to redesign the whole bathroom because, you know, gee, Sam's going to be in a wheelchair. That's not going to work, or this is not going to work. We're going to need a new bed. We're going to need, you know, so all these things, and people are offering support and saying, you know, do you want me to cook you dinner? And I'm going, oh my God. And it's sort of a bit like that. But you ended up focusing on, well, I did what was most important, and that was Sam and the boys. And I think things just that weren't important kind of just sort of drifted off into the background. So Sam spent 6 months in hospital. So it was a long time to adjust. And I think the boys, you know, coped really well. They obviously missed not having Sam here. And we got used to it. I guess we did fall into a bit of a routine, and we were actually really excited to find out, you know, that Mum was coming home in a couple of weeks, and you know, the house wasn't quite ready. The kitchen hadn't been finished, but
nor had the bathroom.
Oh, really? Sorry. I was trying.
Lift your game
on the bloody.
Come on.
Yeah. So we were almost there, I think. Anyway, and it actually was like the worst experience out of the 6 months, because when Sam came home, it was like I was thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to be so much happier. She's going to be home. She get to look at the view, because we have a nice, you know, view over the valley into Newport and the beach. And as it turned out, the opposite, and that was not just for me, but for all of us. I think that was one of the hardest times.
And how long did that hardest time last? And maybe, Sam, what was going through your head as you arrived home?
Oh, geez, when I came home, I think that's when the reality kicked in.
But did you look forward to coming home?
Not probably as much as you guys look forward to. I was just comfortable at rehab, I wasn't the only one in the wheelchair. Obviously, all of us had sustained a spinal cord injury, and it just felt safe there. So then when I came home, I was kind of like, well, I can't do anything that I used to do. I couldn't run down to the shops. I couldn't even do silly things like mum things. I couldn't clean the house, make the beds, just do normal things. I think I was just overwhelmed with my new reality, and I really did not like it.
How did you get through it, Sam? I mean, maybe the second part of my question, how long did it last, and how did you get through it?
It
How many years?
Lasted for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
it's like an ongoing
a graph that slowly
it gets a little easier diminished. But sometimes I still don't particularly like living here, because like look out of our window and you see my favorite surf spot where I grew up, and so I find that really frustrating. Or if I look that way, I can see the national park where I used to go mountain biking. So it's sort of like everything that I loved doing was right in front of me, but I knew I couldn't do it. So I found that really, really hard. So, still do.
And I guess quite famously, one of the things that maybe helped was a little fluffy magpie chick.
Yes.
It was a big shift in like, I think, the energy in the house, because it was very dark. And I think it was almost pretty well like at your lowest point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because we didn't find Penguin until 3 months after I came home from hospital, and I was pretty bad. I've never felt like that before. Like, I honestly, I wish I died. I would think about suicide all the time. I wouldn't have done it because I couldn't have put Cam and the kids through like another trauma. I was just so sad, and I pushed everybody away. Like, people used to let friends and people around the area, other mums would pop in, and I didn't like them. I didn't like them coming in to see me because I was embarrassed, because I used to be like super active. I was a striker playing soccer, and I was always running around, and then here I am in a wheelchair, and this sounds really weird, but I couldn't wear any of my old clothes, and I wasn't me. It's like my whole identity had been taken away.
Wow.
So, I found that really challenging. So I just pushed them away, and that's kind of how I coped. I almost wanted to stay in my own little bubble and just sort of deal with it in a way on my own. And I was also envious, because they'd come up and they'd be like, oh, I've just been down the beach, or I've just been training or going for a run, and I didn't want to hear that, which sounds really terrible, but
no,
it just rubbed it in. It rubbed it in too much, what I'd lost. So, and
again, you kind of think, well, if like one of the friends came up to visit Sam, what were they going to say? They're not like, like they. I guess we've often sort of said, oh, just be normal, or just talk about normal things, but that can still be, I guess, painful,
especially at the beginning.
Yeah, because I mean, you want to be treated like normal, and not be pitied. Well, I'm speaking on your behalf now, but
no, it's true. It is true. Yeah, I would get that look, the look of like, oh, I'm so sorry,
poor
and
thing.
it's just like, oh.
Yeah, so it's very difficult situation for not only for Sam, but for friends, and for our mums, or who would sometimes come up, my mum especially, oh, just been to yoga, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, mum.
I just went on the most beautiful bushwalk.
Yes. Yeah, but she's 80, so I yeah.
I know.
oh, I've got a sore elbow. You know, so it's one of those things. Sam doesn't feel a lot of
Compassion.
empathy to other people suffering minor injuries.
Fair enough.
So going back to penguins. So I'd been home for 3 months, and then Noah and I went to my mum's house, and it was really windy day, and I wasn't driving at the time, so Mum had to drive us home. So we went out to her car, and that's when Noah found a little baby magpie that had been blown out, and she was so tiny and so vulnerable. So we thought if we left her there, she would have died. So we picked her up, brought her home, and I think she just changed. Like Cam said, she changed the energy in our house. You know, everybody, including myself, put all our focus and energy into her because she was so needy and just so adorable. So yeah, that really kind of, she just brought happiness, which was really lovely because I thought I don't know, it felt like I had like this dark cloud always over me, and then I just would bring everybody down.
Sam was like a little Looney drawing.
With
with the rain always falling over Sam.
And Cam, clearly, you know, really keen to talk about sort of how this turned into the book of the same name, Penguin Bloom. But you obviously were taking photos throughout all this stage. Is that just normal? You normally just take photos, or were you deliberately thinking this is something I want to chronicle?
No, far from it. You know, ever since the boys were born, even when they were in Sam's tummy, I was taking photos of the boys. So it's just something that I love documenting, and the opportunity was so unique. We never, I mean, as she got older, we thought that she may fly away, so it was just this random kind of experience where she lived in the house and she lived out of the house. And when she came home, it was, lively and chaotic at times. And there were some really, magical moments that were worth capturing. So my cameras were always in the lounge room, and she sometimes would be here. Well, certainly in the beginning, she was here for, at least 6 months before sort of venturing off. I remember she started going down to the kindy down the road, which is about 100 meters away, and she would eat all the kids' sandwiches at morning tea time. And we would get a call from the principal down there, "Oh, Cameron, Penguin's down here. You're going to have to come and get her." And it was. She became known in the neighborhood because she did have a unique voice. She sang this incredible song that didn't sound like a magpie, and the boys would be able to sort of sing to her, particularly Reuben, and she would copy Reuben and sing back. And it was a really, I mean, as it was a beautiful experience for Sam and me, it was as important, I think, for the kids to experience that wild sort of, nature coming into their house.
And that really comes through in the photos within the book, doesn't it? The sort of boys and teaching Penguin to fly, and the sort of wonderful connection that they seem to have with. Yeah,
I think Penguin taught the boys as much as other way around.
And how about the boys? I mean, outside of the introduction of Penguin into the family, how can you rebuild them? Some have borne witness to the fact that, Sam, you've fallen. Were there other techniques that you use to keep the family together, keep the boys focused and orientated and in good headspace?
No, I think we just carried on as normal. Like, it's funny when Sam had her accident, it's not like we were going to say to the boys, "Oh, you can't ride your bikes now, you can't go, skateboarding," or, I've still got photos of them jumping off the roof, onto the trampoline. We had a trampoline without any nets, all those sort of things. That was just us, not that we took, unnecessary risks or anything, but we didn't want to stop living, and I'm sure Sam felt the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't want to, put like fear. We don't want them to be fearful of like doing something. Because
we've always like clambered around the rocks around the beach, and the boys have always climbed trees, and that, you still get the willies when you see them up at 40-foot tree. But so that was important, just to continue life and for them to grow up normally. So I think geez, it could have gone the other way. Maybe one of them could have been really had, I guess, some form of PTSD from it. But none, they all came through.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, really good. It would be interesting if like one of them was interviewed on a sort of deeper level on, like if there were any issues there. But I don't know. I don't think there is.
No, but I think it was hard for Noah because out of all of our kids, he's the one who surfed. And so when I came home, it was like my first summer, and like I said, I was not in a good headspace. And then because we lived so close to the beach, he'd grab his surfboard, then he'd look at me and he'd go, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mum. I know you'd love to go surfing." And that made me feel so guilty. So I'd say, I'd be like, "No, just go and get an awesome wave," and that would make me happy. So yeah, I think it was really challenging for the kids. And Ollie was the baby. And I'd try not to cry in front of them. So I'd used to either cry in the bathroom or sort of in the shower very silently, or, kind of like.
How come Sam's having such a long shower?
Yeah. Or, I'd wander off into our bedroom. And I remember one day he came in, I'd be like wiping the tears, and he'd be like, "Oh, are you okay, Mum?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. And then he'd be like, "Well, if you're sad, I'm sad." So it was just this ongoing guilt of like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, I found it really hard. I just felt really guilty as a mum because, before we left for Thailand, I was always happy and energetic and like, riding skateboards with them and just doing fun things.
Sam was the ultimate tomboy.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Still a bit of a
Still tomboy.
And I can't stop thinking, where should I go next from here? And as I watch you, I can't help but wonder why good things happen to people like you. My thoughts are so far ahead of me. It's so hard to be patient, but I never needed you, so don't think that I do now. You think you know all that I can do, but you've never been so wrong. Oh, it's time for me to say this. You won't leave me broken, I can't stop feeling like I didn't know what to do anymore, and I couldn't stop hoping that you.
So how did that period in time and that collection of photographs you were taking almost incidentally, chronicling your sort of lives in general, what was the idea to turn that into a book? How did that come about?
It was because the boys had suggested we start an Instagram account, and
that was just for fun though.
Of course, and it was just a natural progression of me putting images of penguin pecking one of the boys' eyes or whatever, just funny things, and then it started gaining quite a lot of traction, and then an article came out on the ABC, a digital article, where they wrote something about a magpie, and said, I think someone had taken a picture of a magpie standing on a station, and they said, "Is that penguin?" And the journalist wrote, "Who's penguin?" and started delving a bit further, and then he contacted me and said, "Oh wow, you've got an incredible story, can I write about it?" And it was when that article came out. I distinctly remember it was the front page story alongside Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister at the time, and the picture of I think Ollie brushing his teeth, and penguin diving, her mouth into Ollie's mouth. And from that moment, all the papers and various digital media started republishing images and stories, and then I started getting calls from publishers saying, "We want to do a book on penguin and your family." And I just thought, that's such a weird idea. Who'd want to? No, really, I thought it was.
We thought it was hilarious.
So odd. Like, who's going to buy a book about
our family?
Well, no, well,
And
just
photos of us.
photos of someone else's kids. Like, it was just so foreign to me. And I had a call from the ABC, one of the ABC publishers, Brigida Doyle, and she sounded like the most beautiful woman on the phone, and we really connected. And I said, I think, the story should be, if we're going to do a book, the story really should be focusing on like Sam's recovery as well. And she had said to me, "Who's Sam?" And she had no idea. I mean, obviously our close friends knew about Sam's accident and her gradual.
I didn't let Cam take my photo in the wheelchair.
So there were not many images of Sam.
If I had Penguin on my shoulder, I'd be like, okay, sure, you can take the photo of Penguin and I, but don't shoot the wheelchair. So no one, unless, obviously our friends and family knew what had happened, but no one else knew.
I had a long conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I thought clearly the story is so interlinked with Sam's accident, and that's interesting that the initial interest was just on the beautiful photos that you took and Penguin as a cheeky magpie.
Yes.
So when I spoke to Brigida about Sam's story and her gradual recovery, she was fascinated, and then I reached out to Bradley Trevor Grieve, who is quite a well-known author. He lives in LA, and I said to him, I've been getting all these, messages from publishers wanting to do a book. I really think, Sam's story is interesting as well. And he said, let me think about it. I think I know the not the solution, but I've got a great idea. Yeah. We got on so well on the phone, and I ended up asking him, do you want to write the book? And he said, let me get back to you in 24 hours. And he put like a really quick synopsis of saying, we can tell Sam's journey through Penguin. And I was like, oh, this guy's a genius. And no, really, I thought it was such a great idea. And so we spent basically, I think, more than a year collating all the images. I had shot at the time maybe about 13,000 images, and I sent him about 2,000 or 4,000 images to go through. And he was not looking for like the hero image or the most spectacular. He was really interested in like the nuances of like Penguin getting lost around the house, or things that could help tell Sam's story. And it was really interesting watching the way he worked and choosing images. And we would, sometimes argue over some images and things like that. But by and large, he basically spent, so much time with Sam. And it was really such a great experience for the two of us, because we actually worked quite independently.
Yeah, so I didn't know Bradley. And then because he lives in LA, so we would just Skype. And at first I think I was a bit reserved because, I didn't know him. Yeah. I didn't want to tell him everything. And then as time went on, I loved it because we became really good friends, and we would spend hours and hours talking. So it was really good for me. And Bradley used to be a paratrooper, and he's also sustained like so many injuries, and I don't know, it was just lovely. Just sort of, he'd tell me all his problems and I would tell him my problems, and it was just a really beautiful relationship. So that's how it sort of all started.
I was going to ask, was that process, was it difficult for you sort of reliving all of the sort of experiences, or was it kind of cathartic?
I think it was cathartic. Yeah, I didn't find it. Yeah, no, I didn't find it sad. No, not talking about myself. The only time I would get a bit sad is talking about the boys and the impact it had on them, and feeling so guilty as a mum. That was a little bit sad.
I think the saddest part for me was when he would send through the draft, or the first draft, and I started reading it and go, oh my God, I can't get through this. This is because it was then that you realize, oh wow, this is our story, and he just was able to create such beautiful feeling, and it was very emotional. Yeah.
And so the end result of that was Penguin Bloom. the book.
Correct. Yeah.
And then Sam Bloom, the book, followed after that?
Well, quite
a few years after
Yeah.
Penguin Book came out.
The focus was on actually trying to get the book published in other territories and languages. And I think all up it's probably been published in about 14 different languages. And it was the book that went to Naomi Watts in the early stages. And it was when she read the book and wanted to option the movie the book, to create the movie.
Yeah.
And Sam Bloom, we didn't think that was going to be another book at all. And did we?
No, not at all.
Mm.
So that would have been Bradley's idea.
Oh, I think
so.
No, I don't. No, it stems from the back of the first book. All the messages that came. So when we wrote Penguin Bloom, which was all in my voice, at the very end of Penguin, there's a message from Sam, and there was so many really incredible. There was a really incredible reaction from people who thought that what Sam had sort of expressed, it really really resonated with them, and I think it was from that the second book was kind of born.
Mm.
Yes, no, I agree. Because I used to write a lot of things down on my phone, which Cam's still yet to see. It was very, I have to admit, it was very negative and it was very repetitive. But I think it helped Bradley. It helped Bradley sort of get inside my head, to know exactly how I was feeling about everything.
Mm.
So
so the second book is just
sort of, it's more my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your whole life.
Yes. Well, not the whole thing, but a lot of it.
Mm.
And can we talk about the movie for a second? I've got a couple of really sort of naughty questions to start with. Getting Naomi Watts to play you in a movie is not a bad run. Tim often sort of, I guess, speaks out loud that he reckons in the movie version of his life that Mark Wahlberg will be playing him. I'm not sure that's the case. But Cam, did you have any input into who'd play you? Clearly, Andrew Lincoln, good-looking guy, good, big movie star profile.
Total spunk. I had nothing to do with that at all.
You weren't leading on casting.
It was a very difficult process to find a cam. A lot of the Australian actors were either busy shooting another film or away in Europe.
Surely there's a spare Hemsworth brother.
Yeah, it had to be right as well. I don't think that would fit. And I just remember when Bruna, our producer, said that they'd found Cam. It was only about a month or 6 weeks before, maybe 6 weeks before shooting. So it was really tight. And they said they got Andrew Lincoln, and I remember we both went,
"Who's that?
Who's that?" and then we Googled him. And
No, Bruna said, "Oh, he's the guy in Love Actually."
With the cards?
The cards, I'm like, "Oh my God, he's hot."
Yeah. And then the boys knew him from the
Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes, we've never seen that. Well, the boys watched it, but we were so stoked. I mean, he's like the loveliest guy ever.
Yep.
And he's very similar. You and Andy are very similar, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like he's just a very calm, kind of just a really lovely, down to earth guy.
And ridiculously good looking.
He's very good looking. And then Cam said he'd marry Andy.
Did you do time with your respective Hollywood counterparts? How much time?
Yeah, like as much as we could. Like it was really cool. Noah and I went surfing with Andy down at our local sort of beach break, and that was fun. We spent time talking about camera technique and me showing him how I hold my camera and that kind of thing, because obviously that was a huge part of the character. He would ask me about what music I listened to and just a whole lot of random questions, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a short time, but it was in like an intense time, and it was it was just really it was a really wonderful experience.
And you shot the movie in your house, or parts of it in your house? How was that?
Yes. Oh, good. Well, they moved us out. So because then they came in, they pretty much changed the whole interior of our house. They put like wooden ceilings up, wooden panels on the walls, and they painted it because our house is white and they didn't want to shoot in a white house. So yeah, no, it was pretty fun. I mean, it was bizarre. Like we'd come back and have a look at what they've done. But yeah, no, it was fun. And I spent a lot of time on set, which it was funny because Naomi wanted me on set, whereas Andy didn't want Cam on set, which made total sense to me. If I was playing somebody, I wouldn't want them like the real person watching me. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time here, and Naomi used to want me to just watch her like transfer, like from say from the bed to the wheelchair, just to make sure it looked authentic and
all the technical kind of things.
Yeah. So I was really grateful that she wanted to make it as real as possible. So I'd always be going to her, no, Naomi, you have to slow down. Just slow down. Okay, so now switch your abs off. Just pretend you have no abs. No, she was so lovely. She was like Andy. She was really down to earth, very compassionate, and I think we did really well. The whole cast and crew were amazing.
The strangest part was we'd be chatting to her much like we are chatting to you now, and we would just be talking about random things, and then she'd get a little tap on the shoulder from the first assistant director. Say, come on, Naomi, you've got to, you're on now. Your scene's on. And then we would have a little monitor that we were able to watch, and she would go back into our bedroom, and within maybe 3 or 4 minutes, she'd be crying. This is a really intense scene or something like that. And then she would do like 4 takes of that, cry every time, and like incredibly convincing, and then come back here and finish our conversation.
Chatting. We're like, how do you do that?
I mean, and they were. It's not to diminish like, I guess what she did, because they were real tears. Like she would take herself somewhere that obviously created that emotional connection to the scene, and some of the bigger scenes she needed a lot more time to really focus on, and it was pretty amazing to watch that and to experience that, to see such a high caliber actor do that in our lounge room. That was pretty cool.
And the end result, were you happy with your respective portrayals on the big screen?
Yeah, very much so.
Yes, I was. I think Naomi did a great job at looking very sad and very angry. Yes.
And how about the boys? How did they find the process and their sort of counterparts? Were they pretty chuffed?
They spent a little bit of time with them, but it was...
They were like, we'd often say, guys, want to come to set today? They'd be like, no. Like Ollie would go off to the skate park to ride his scooter, and I mean, obviously they were like really excited that they were making a film about our story, but it didn't really affect them. Yeah, they were just just do their thing and come to set occasionally.
But they enjoyed going to the premiere. That was pretty special.
That must be pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, COVID kind of got in the way, so Naomi couldn't come out to the opening, and it kept it sort of a little bit subdued. But it was set right on the harbour in front of the Opera House and Harbour Bridge, and it was it was incredible.
Yeah, it was an amazing night.
Some amazing coherence between Penguin and you, Sam, in terms of you rescuing Penguin. Interesting parallels there with the growth and getting stronger and being released into the wild. You grew up loving surfing, and at some point you refound that passion. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. So after my accident, as far as I was concerned, I would never get on a surfboard again. And again, it was my first summer, and Cam took me for a swim at Palm Beach, which is just a few beaches away from where we live. And our friend was out there on his board. And he's going, "Come on, Sam, get on. You used to surf." And I was like, no. And then he convinced me and he pushed me on a wave. I was like, that's not surfing, because obviously I was just lying down. And so then it took 5 years. It was 5 years after the accident. And I got a random letter from Nola Wilson. She's the mother of Julian Wilson, the ex-professional surfer. And I didn't know them. And she just wrote the most beautiful letter encouraging me to get back out in the ocean and give surfing another go. So I owe a lot to Nola. So I thought, yeah, okay, I'll have another go. And I went in a competition in 2018. Like my first, it was the Australian titles, the adaptive surfing. And yeah, it was really fun. That's when I got on the Australian team. And yeah, we've just continued from there. But I think what I loved about the adaptive surfing was it was like Cam and I were like, we were a team together. So Cam would push me onto the waves and come and save me occasionally. So it was fun. It was fun competing together.
You've been very modest. Could you rattle off a few of your surfing titles, Sam?
Yeah, well, I went in my first World Championships in 2018 in California, and yeah, I won, which was so cool.
So we took all the boys there, and
cool.
they got to see Sam. She's like lifted up high on the surfboard, and it was
seeing the Aussie, and it was amazing. I was so stoked that I won, just in a strange way to sort of say thank you to them. And to just show them, like, sure, like, we have faced so many challenges and difficulties, but you can still do some pretty amazing things.
We're in 2022, and Cam, you're wearing a SurfLakes hat, and this Saturday, the Australian para surfing titles at SurfLakes in Yeppoon, which looks like an incredible facility.
No, it's not. It's not at SurfLakes.
We wish it would be at SurfLakes.
It's going to be held at Port Macquarie.
Okay. Well, maybe
the Australian titles are on.
Separating those two, because you have been involved in what looks like an amazing facility, SurfLakes Yeppoon. Could you talk about what it is?
Yeah.
It's been really in development for the last 5 years or so, and the founder, Aaron, basically, I think he explained to us that he threw a pebble in the water, and he watched the way the ripples expanded in a circular fashion, and he thought, wow, imagine if we could create a plunger type thing to create multiple waves. And that's what they've done. Most wave pools generally only have two rideable waves, maybe a left and a right, and SurfLakes has this unique opportunity where they can create really high energy, high impact kind of waves for like professional surfers with barrels and a lot of power, and then other waves that are softer and less challenging for people who are learning to surf. So we have been up now about 4 times, and it's been just such a great experience. I get to surf sometimes, and but mostly just watching, Sam's face light up as you sort of push her into a wave. It's an incredible experience, because this is like sort of Mad Max kind of structure, and you're really quite close to it. This huge metal
plunger.
It is called a plunger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally,
it's driven down into the water.
To the water. Yeah, so
it's so much fun.
And so I guess our role, or Sam's role as ambassadors to
so that's the one thing actually I was so stoked about. So we'd been up there maybe 2 or 3 times, and and they asked if I wanted to be an ambassador for SurfLakes, which I thought was so cool.
Wicked.
Like, I know, an old chick in a wheelchair being one of their ambassadors. I think that was really, I was so chuffed. I was like, absolutely.
He actually reached out after watching the movie, and that was what got him, I think. Yeah, it was nice.
So it's really, really fun.
You took Noah up there as well. How does it compare with the local break at Newport?
It's just...
Well, he loved it.
Yeah.
He loved it because he was surfing. There's only 2 breaks at the moment which are working. And one is called Ockies, which is quite a sucky wave. Like, it's, you get in a barrel. Yeah, so he was pretty stoked. He got covered.
Yeah, he got to surf with Ockie, and it's going to be great when it sort of comes open to the public.
And then Port Macquarie this Saturday. What's your hopes and dreams for Port Macquarie? Or is that a silly question?
No, well, I mean, it's to get onto the Australian team again. But it's funny because we were just in Hawaii in June for a competition. It was the Hawaiian Adaptive Surf Championships. And for the last 5 years, I've been in the classification where I have Cam pushing me onto the waves in a competition. And we got to Hawaii, and it was 2 days before the competition. And they were like, well, you've sort of changed your surfing technique and you're looking a lot stronger. And so they changed my classification. So now I'm on my own, which is a little terrifying. So I'm just hoping Saturday won't be big and dumpy and scary, because I find it really hard to paddle because I have no abs. I am like paralyzed from my chest down, so all I've got is my arms, and I can't kind of lift my chest off the board, and paddle normal, sort of like flat. So it's going to be a challenge, but I'll be up for it.
Good.
I'm versing the boys.
Oh, cool.
Which will be fun. So
yeah, we'll stick it to him.
Absolutely.
Sam, speaking of scary new things, public speaking, you've obviously really sort of fallen into a niche there. I had the absolute privilege of sharing a stage with you a couple of weeks ago, which is, I guess, how we sort of first met. But this has become, a big part of what you do now, sharing your story and inspiring people through your story. How has that journey been? Was that something you had ever done before, or something that came naturally?
Absolutely not. I'm a full introvert. Public speaking has always been my greatest fear, to be honest.
Yep.
It was funny, even when I first became a nurse, and you'd go into to do the handover to the next shift, and you'd have to read out your patients and all that. I hated that. I hated it. Everyone was looking at me. I'd be like, oh, it's so embarrassing. So no.
And that's in front of 6 or 7 people, and now you're doing 6,000 or 7,000 plus. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm not like, I don't own the stage, but it's gotten a little bit easier. I must admit, the first time I did it, I was saying to Cam, oh my God, I'm going to be sick. I literally thought I was going to vomit before I had to go up on stage. I was so nervous, but I kind of enjoy it. Obviously I still get nervous. Yeah, no, we talk about resilience, and I think I am pretty resilient to essentially face my greatest fear, and that is to get up in front of people and have to speak. So it sounds strange, but I'm kind of proud that the fact that I've overcome that.
Because just even the other day, Sam got up in front of 2,500 people, and it's like, there's no way I could do that.
That's what everybody says. It's so funny. Even my sister said the other day, there's no way I could do that. And I'm like, seriously, if I could do it, I think anyone could do it. And that's being 100% honest.
Yeah.
Was that the one, Sam, also where there was the 1 second delay between the audio just to make things even worse?
Yes, that was horrible. It was so off-putting because it was just this ginormous room, and I just kept hearing myself. And then I'm thinking, oh no, they must be hearing that as well. So yeah, that was very off-putting actually.
But you just, being able to focus and push through is admirable. Because
even you found it off-putting. Because afterwards Cam got the Q&A and you realised that you could hear yourself too. And yeah, it's a bit unnerving,
but they're all the great experiences that you have. Public speaking. You're always learning. I mean, it doesn't have to be about public speaking, but just experiencing that helps grow your ability to cope in other situations.
Yeah, and as Sam said before, that facing your greatest fear and coming through, I mean, it is incredibly impressive. And clearly your whole story, both of you, Cam and Sam, is incredibly inspirational. And it's no wonder that 2,500 people sort of want to sit and hear it, even if the audio is a bit delayed. I mean, we're certainly
a little bit.
We're certainly taking notes, and we'll get the audio squared away. But we're really excited about having you up on Fitzroy Island for the inaugural Resilience Retreat. Can't guarantee 2,500 people. Can guarantee better audio comms.
We can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun.
It's gonna be really fun.
I think it'll be cool. We're in the midst of a wet Perth winter, and so the idea of just getting up to North Queensland and a bit of sun is pretty attractive. Let alone having you both there and the content that we're looking at.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
Sam and Cam, to wrap up, really keen to ask a question we ask most of our guests, and that is, what is your power song? Is there a song that you can press and you go into that good hardcore mode, or that can get you through sort of the tough times? Does one spring to mind for either of you or both of you?
Like a psych up song?
Yeah, or it doesn't even need to be that. That's certainly what we've got. A lot of great psych up songs in our power song playlist. But even just one that you like listening to, or that you keep coming back to.
Far out.
We have such a diverse sort of.
Or maybe a psych up song would be maybe like Smashing Pumpkins or Radiohead. For me, one of their songs.
Like it. In fact, I've got Bullet with Butterfly Wings on my little sort of exercise playlist. I reckon that's a good one.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to always listen to Fatboy Slim when I was mountain biking. That was cool, like to to ride to. I am pretty bad. I am quite notorious for listening to the same song over and over again. You always comment.
What are you listening to over and over again now, Sam?
Oh, geez, what? Oh, this is a bit embarrassing. From watching that movie, Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And Sam used to hate Queen.
I don't think I ever hated them, but I never listened to them.
No, I think she just loved the movie.
Yeah, I like the movie, but no, Bob Marley. I've listened to Bob Marley ever since I was about 13.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love Bob Marley, I love reggae.
I like it.
I would say that. That's where it was funny, actually, because when I was in hospital at North Shore, Cam bought me a DVD, remember? You bought me the Bob Marley Live DVD, and that was my form of escape. I'd watch the DVD, put my headphones on, and just delve into just watching Bob Marley and listening to his music. So that meant a lot. I loved that DVD. Yeah.
Amazing.
So thanks for that.
The Unforgiving 60 podcast has the Unforgiving 60 playlist on Spotify. The power songs of all of our guests. We will include Smashing Pumpkins and some Bob Marley.
Very good.
Good choice.
Beauty. Well, thanks. Listen, Cam and Sam, thank you very much for your time. As I said, it was awesome to chat just now, and we are super stoked. Very much looking forward to spending a bit more time with you up in sunny, tropical North Queensland at the end of October for the Resilience Retreat.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you guys so much. It was so much fun.
Awesome.
Nobody knows what beauty is anymore. Do they actually look like that, or just really good at Photoshop? Oh Lord, isn't that strange? If you wanna be beautiful, then please take my advice. Don't try to change to be beautiful, you already are inside. Oh, 'cause it just works that way. It's hard to see sometimes because of social media and TV, but the truth we fail to realize is, oh, that's not how life's meant to be. Hey, so long I've tried to look in me, what I'm expectations are getting higher every year. For me to look a certain way, and if I do, everyone will like me. Oh Lord, doesn't it work that way? I see 25-year-old actors playing someone who's 18, with bodies like they've never eaten fries, and they spend all day at the gym. Oh God, how can I look that way? I know it's hard to see sometimes, 'cause everyone's telling you what you're meant to be. But what I want you to realize is, oh, you really don't need to change a thing. Hey, so long I've tried to look and be what I'm supposed to be. Oh, I don't care anymore. Hey, if you feel like me, then scream out that you don't give a damn what they say. You're beautiful the way you are. Every day we're told what we should be like, and I know deep down we'll try so hard to be. The real beauty in this life, it's within us. Oh, so please don't try and change a thing. So long I've tried to look and be what I'm supposed to be. Oh, I don't care anymore. Hey, if you feel like me, then scream out that you don't give a damn what they say. You're beautiful the way you are.
Now to the debrief. We try to go always a little further in this podcast and greatly appreciate your input. Please let us know your feedback, the good, the bad, or the ugly. Also, if you know someone who is living a life less ordinary, we'd love to hear about them. You can get in touch at debrief@unforgiving60.com. That's debrief@unforgiving60.com. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and write a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Until next episode, keep filling your unforgiving minutes with 60 seconds worth of distance run. See you next time on the Unforgiving 60.